Hey y'all, it's midnight Eastern time, and I'm here for a Sunday kind of love. My midnight musings. Uh, so I found out this week, or it was in the news, that San Mateo County became the first in the U.S. to declare that loneliness was a public health emergency. And last year in May, the Surgeon General issued an advisory on an epidemic of loneliness and isolation. And I really was reflecting on this and this concept of loneliness. And I had a couple of things I wanted to ask you all and share with you all that I was thinking about, because what the conclusion that I came to was that this is really about loneliness is about a lack of connection. And I've talked about this with so many friends, just in terms of the lack of this feeling of community that we've lost along the way somewhere. And I really mourn for that. And I think what's interesting is community is hard when you have a group of people that don't feel comfortable with themselves. And I'm speaking for myself too, so I'm not, casting any shadows on or shade on other people. I honestly feel like, and one of the articles I was reading was talking about how San Mateo is the home of Facebook, and is it coincidental that the home of Facebook is the place where loneliness seems to be, is the first place to be declared an actual public health emergency. And I really think we need to take a look at how we're connecting internally and how that's affecting how we're able to connect externally. I think there is so much in there. And, this is my musings about love. And I feel like there is so much importance and yet so little focus given to how we feel about ourselves. It's really easy to say, yeah, I love myself. But it's a journey. You know that that's not the way you feel every day. You have your moments where you're feeling, insecure. I don't. If there is someone who feels secure 100% of the time, I would say that is probably they're exceptional. They are truly exceptional. And I think that's like finding someone who's perfect. That just doesn't exist. So, I want to really reach out, I guess, connect with the people out there that are feeling this sense of loneliness. You can be lonely in a crowd of people because you don't feel connected. And for me, especially coming out of the pandemic, where a lot of us were isolated, right? And if you are single and particularly, I'm going to speak to the women out there. There are scientific studies that have shown that we benefit more and rely more on our social relationships. They are a tremendous part of either helping us relieve our stress or helping us to, when we lose them, we actually are more stressed. So this sense of connection and how we find connection is really intriguing to me. So if anybody has any, thoughts on it, I would love to have an intellectual conversation, but also a practical conversation. One, when I look at social media and what people are feeling, again, it has to do with this, how we're perceiving ourselves and how we're connecting with how we feel, and then not being able to then connect with others, because it affects how we move in the world. When we're not feeling comfortable with ourselves, how we move in the world changes so much. So what do I suggest? I mean, as a health and wellness coach, this has a trickle down effect on public health, which is the reason why it was declared an emergency, because it affects clearly our stress, which then goes on to affect things like hypertension, cardiovascular disease, depression of your immune system, suppression of your immune system, which leads to more infectious diseases, and then eventually self-harm, potentially suicide. And so all of those things are affecting us as a community. And I just want to ask everyone, including, folks in the public health community, to really look at programming and ways in which we can, and the hearings on social media is probably a first step in the right direction, but that we can really start to consider how we're feeling about ourselves, and put words to it, and have it not be, this whole stigma around mental health and mental well-being. It becomes popular, but then it's not really sustained. And for communities of color, particularly Black communities, how is that, kind of adding to the existing stress that we already have? So that's my musing for tonight. Some of them are going to be deep, some of them are going to be a little light, but all of them are going to be hopefully something that you can think about, consider, and let me know how you feel. Being able to talk about how you feel is so important, and I think it's a little ironic that I'm using social media for this, somewhat therapeutic, but hopefully it'll encourage other people to be more forthright and to express in this way. So, long story short, with San Mateo County being the first in the U.S. to declare loneliness as a public health emergency, and that's this year, and then last year the Surgeon General really declaring an epidemic of loneliness and isolation, we have an opportunity to connect with one another and to really support one another, and not only love one another, but look at new ways that we can, or I should say, and look at new ways that we can love ourselves. So it always starts with us internally, because once we are able to find that comfort inside, that grounding, that centeredness inside, it is much, much easier to project it out and connect externally. So thank you for listening to my midnight musings. Thanks for being up. To my friends Lynn and George and Michelle, thanks for joining, and I hope you all have a good night, and connect, love, and speak your truth.